Thank you for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Brody Carter. Today, we're taking a look at Israel capturing a key Hamas stronghold that served as a training center for the October 7th attacks. But the attack also killing and wounding civilians in the area, and the U.S. sending 300 more troops to the Middle East to try to prevent a wider war. And as Israel's they're fighting this battle against terrorism, the growing concerns over terrorist attacks right here in the U.S., amid concerns over security along the southern border. And how should the U.S. send aid to Israel? Should it be in one separate measure or combined with aid to Ukraine? We're taking a closer look at the political battle on Capitol Hill and escape from war. How one U.S. bishop's wife living in Israel was caught when the war broke out, and what she heard during the chaos in a bomb shelter that gave her peace. We have those stories and much more today on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
We begin with the war in the Middle East, where Israel targeted a Hamas command and control center in Gaza yesterday. But the terrorist stronghold, it was a base of refugees. A number of Israeli troops, Hamas terrorists, and civilians all died in this operation. Still, Israel captured the key Hamas stronghold, and today many international citizens are finally being allowed out of Gaza. Chris Mitchell brings us that story from Jerusalem.
On Tuesday, the IDF announced it secured a central Hamas stronghold in the Jabalia refugee camp that served as a training center for the October 7th massacre. Israel said the operation included a combined airstrike and ground troops who killed a number of Hamas terrorists in face-to-face combat, including one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack. A Gaza hospital director said the strike also killed and wounded many civilians when buildings collapsed along with Hamas's underground tunnel complex. The IDF said Hamas is using civilians as human shields, and everyone in the area had been told to leave the area to safety. The IDF confirmed that 12 soldiers were killed in the fighting so far, 9 when their armored personnel carrier was struck by an anti-tank missile. Meanwhile, the military's Arrow air defense system successfully intercepted a ballistic missile aimed at Israel in its first operational use. The Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, armed with a large arsenal of surface-to-surface missiles, took responsibility for the attack.
This operation is the third operation to support our oppressed brothers in Palestine and confirm that they will continue to carry out more qualitative strikes with missiles and drones until the Israeli aggression stops.
Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah also released a cryptic video pointing to a speech that will be delivered on Friday. Some speculate this could be the terror group's declaration of war. Due to the rise in global anti-Semitism, Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Tuesday called on nations around the world to protect and support their Jewish populations.
This is a message that must be heard loud and clear. When they say from the river to the sea, they say without any Jews. When they demonstrate on campuses against Israel, that means without Jews. When they criticize Israel fighting for its defending its people and fighting against the most brutal attack that humanity has seen in last generation, they mean no Jews. This is a fight not only against Israel, it's a fight against anti-Semites all over the world, and we are here to strengthen our brothers and sisters of Jewish communities all over the world.
The Pentagon announced U.S. Special Forces stationed in Israel are helping the IDF identify and locate hostages and American citizens held in the Gaza Strip. It also announced 300 more troops are being deployed to the Middle East to support efforts to deter a wider war. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Crossing Authority said more than 400 foreign passport holders would be permitted to leave Gaza on Wednesday. A Hamas spokesman said they will release some of the foreign hostages, while the mother of rescued IDF soldier Uri Magadish addressed the press for the first time.
Dear people of Israel, we thank everyone for their prayers and support. Our Ori came back home, and now our prayers are with the rest of the abducted and missing, and our hearts are with all the families. Thank you, Creator. There's none above you.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, the Israeli attack on that heavily populated refugee camp in Gaza, where Hamas allegedly had a training center for the October 7th attacks, getting a lot of attention in the media right now. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, quite a bit, Brody. I talked to an IDF spokesman earlier today. He said what they were doing is they're targeting that high-ranking Hamas leader in Gaza. He was one of the planners of the October 7th massacre. He was involved in terror attacks all the way back to 2004. He explained that this was a high-value target. It was tragic that civilians were killed in the midst of this. The Jabalia refugee camp was a Hamas stronghold, and he was stressing to me that Hamas uses these civilians as human shields. And the IDF has actually been pleading for weeks that Gazans should get out of harm's way, and doing that in a number of different ways.
Well, Chris, foreign nationals are going to be allowed to leave Gaza through a location known as the Rafah crossing. Where will they go, and what is the possibility that that could include Americans?
Well, we're not sure that's going to include Americans just now, and where they would go would be into Sinai. That's going to be the Egyptian border. Apparently, Qatar brokered this deal between Egypt, Israel, and Hamas. It will allow some foreign and dual nationals to leave. And what Egypt has done is part of their deal is that they've set up a field hospital on the other side of the Rafah crossing. Some of those people that are leaving are going to be injured or wounded. And also they've set up the army, the Egyptian army actually right there, because Egypt really doesn't want a flood of Gazans coming into Egypt. And so this is a very, very difficult situation. But at least some of these nationals and foreigners are going to be able to leave that have been stuck inside Gaza for weeks now.
Well, Israel is telling those civilians to leave Gaza repeatedly, but others say that Hamas is blocking them from getting out. Is that right?
It is right, and sometimes at gunpoint. The IDF released a conversation not too long ago about an IDF officer and a Gazan resident, and the man was telling the IDF that, you know, we wanted to leave, but they go down the road they tell them to go down to get into a safe place. Hamas blocked the road and actually was threatening people that they would shoot them. Some of the other things that the IDF has done, Brody, is the IDF has sent thousands of leaflets into Gaza telling people to leave harm's way. They've called them, they've texted them, and Israel really wants to get the Palestinians out of this war zone and into safety. So that's why they've spent days and sometimes weeks in terms of trying to get the Palestinians out of the war zone and out of harm's way.
Well, as we discussed yesterday, Israeli forces are going after Hamas and their huge network of tunnels. How is that fighting ongoing?
It's very, very difficult, Brody. Just a few minutes ago, we got reports of a very serious and difficult clashes and exchanges of fire between IDF soldiers and Hamas terrorists in Gaza City. Right now, there's three movements coming from the north and the west and the east, part of their strategy to cut the Gaza Strip into two and isolate the northern part. So right now, they've come down from the north, and some of this is not that urban warfare that they've been expecting, but it's going to be very, very difficult from here on now. They're going to be going into that tunnel network. It's a very elaborate, more than 300 miles, according to some estimates. Actually, there was a Russian TV reporter there not long ago. He showed some of the labyrinth there. It's enormous. It's very sophisticated. It's about 200 feet underground. And, you know, urban warfare is some of the hardest kind of fighting, but tunnel warfare is likely even more harder than that. And for some, it's reminiscent of some of the kind of tunnel fighting that the U.S. soldiers did in Vietnam. Very difficult, very dangerous, and the Hamas can use it to pop up in different places. So, you know, people need to be praying for what's going on right now in the Gaza Strip.
Oh, most definitely, Chris. And these tensions are rising. So how significant is it that the Houthis are escalating their attacks against Israel? Who are the Houthis, Chris, and why are they launching these attacks?
Well, they're a Shiite Islamic group inside Yemen. They've been having a civil war there, and they've also been at war with Saudi Arabia. There's been a truce for the last year or so. But what they're doing is actually opening up another front on Israel's south. Israel's putting warships in there in the Red Sea to intercept those ballistic missiles, which are very, very big. And the Houthis have a big arsenal. The U.S. already has warships stationed there. It seems to be designed to take off some of the pressure off Iran, and certainly directed by Iran to put more pressure on Israel.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem. Thanks, and as always, Chris, stay safe. Many of us are praying for you. Well, coming up, Congress hears from the FBI director about the possibility of terrorist attacks here in the United States from people here in this country inspired by international terrorist groups. Those concerns come amid questions about the security along our southern border. We'll have that story when we come back.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
National security experts agree threats against the United States are growing. On Capitol Hill Tuesday, members of the Biden administration highlighted an increasingly urgent need to address those threats in order to protect the homeland. CBN News White House correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us that story from Washington.
The heads of the FBI and Homeland Security acknowledged that amid worldwide political and social uncertainty and Israel's war with Hamas, now is the time to be concerned about terrorist threats to the United States. They say risk isn't going away, noting the chance for a terror attack in America is increasing.
Lone actors, homegrown violent extremists inspired by foreign terrorist organizations are in many ways the biggest threat we face here in the homeland.
FBI Director Christopher Wray also admits the gaps in U.S. intelligence are real.
What would you tell Americans right now about the threat today as compared to before?
This is not a time for panic, but it is a time for vigilance. We shouldn't stop conducting our daily lives, going to schools, houses of worship, and so forth, but we should be vigilant.
Wray acknowledged threats to the Jewish community are at historic levels.
The Jewish community is uniquely targeted by pretty much every terrorist organization across the spectrum. And when you look at a group that makes up 2.4% roughly of the American population, it should be jarring to everyone that that same population accounts for something like 60% of all religious-based hate crimes.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas fielded questions on DHS attempts to keep track of known terrorists crossing the southern border.
Individuals that pose a risk to our national security are our highest enforcement priority.
and the impact of millions who have illegally crossed under President Biden's watch.
Where did these 6 million people go? Are you keeping track of them? To what extent do we have a handle on where these 6 million people are in America?
Senator, as you well know, when an individual is indeed released, they are released into immigration enforcement proceedings and are subject to removal if they do not have a legal basis to remain in the United States.
You're not answering the question.
One of Director Wray's major concerns is the number of terrorist organizations explicitly calling for attacks in the U.S., which bumps the current threat risk to a whole new level. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Still ahead, another battle in Congress over how to provide U.S. assistance for Israel. Should there be a bill just to help the Jewish state, or should that aid be combined with money to also help Ukraine? We'll bring you a closer look at that debate right after this.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Two Biden administration cabinet members appealed for $100 billion in emergency funding to a divided Congress on Capitol Hill Tuesday. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made their case to both help Israel as well as Ukraine. But House Republicans maintain each conflict should be addressed separately. Should there be a measure just to provide aid for Israel? While in the Senate, there's bipartisan support for the request to send help to both countries in one bill. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke has that story.
For our adversaries, be they states or non-states, this is all one fight. And we have to respond in a way that recognizes that. If we start to peel off pieces of this package, they'll see that, they'll understand that we are playing whack-a-mole while they cooperate increasingly.
As an example, Secretary of State Antony Blinken pointed out Iran has provided Russia with weapons for its war in Ukraine. Now, Russia is also hosting Hamas, Iran's proxy, and the terror group behind the attack on Israel. Both secretaries believe the next move from the U.S. will be a critical factor in what happens next.
What happens in Ukraine, what happens in the Middle East also matters for the Indo-Pacific.
The Biden administration wants Congress to pass an emergency funding package, which would include more than $61 billion for Ukraine and $14 billion for Israel. There's also money in the package earmarked for humanitarian aid, Indo-Pacific security assistance, and U.S. border protection.
We need to address all of these priorities as part of one package, because the reality is these issues are all connected and they are all urgent. The Chinese government is watching how we respond to Putin's aggression in Ukraine. Putin is hoping the Hamas attack will give him an opening and distract the world from aiding Ukraine against his brutal invasion. And all of our adversaries are watching closely to see whether we have the vision to recognize how these crises are related and the resolve to come together and respond forcefully to them.
While there's bipartisan support in the Senate for joint funding, House Republicans, led by a new speaker, have already released an Israel-only funding bill, saying the two conflicts should be divided.
We have a responsibility, a stewardship responsibility over the precious treasure of the American people, and we have to make sure that the White House is providing the people with some accountability for the dollars, and we want to know what the objective there is. What is the end game in Ukraine?
Meanwhile, attacks on U.S. forces serving in both Syria and Iraq also came up in Tuesday's hearing.
If this doesn't stop, then we will respond. And so we maintain the right to respond. We have the capability to do that, and we will respond at a time and place of our choosing.
Senators also invited DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to testify about the money earmarked for border security. He was unavailable for Tuesday's hearing, but is scheduled to appear before the Appropriations Committee next week. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, escape from Hamas. An American bishop's wife trapped in Israel when Hamas launched its murderous attacks on October 7th, as she woke up to the sound of sirens and explosions. But in the midst of that chaos, in a bomb shelter, she found peace. We'll hear from Ruth, Pauline, Plummer when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place, all day, every day. The CBN News Channel. Download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At cbn.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. cbn.com.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
In 2019, Bishop Glenn Plummer and his wife Ruth Pauline moved to Israel with the mission of building relationships between Jews and Black America. When war broke out, Pauline Plummer found herself in the country all alone. And CBN's Charlene Aaron spoke with her recently about how in the midst of chaos in a bomb shelter, she heard something that gave her peace.
Glenn and Ruth Pauline Plummer have endured many challenges over the past 4 years, from facing accusations of proselytizing to death threats. They never imagined, however, being separated by war when Hamas launched the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. That Saturday morning, Dr. Ruth Pauline Plummer awakened to the sound of sirens and explosions. A phone call from a friend confirmed the worst. Israel was at war. With her husband, Bishop Glenn Plummer, in the U.S. on a business trip, Dr. Plummer went to their home's bomb shelter. Alone and afraid, Dr. Plummer says God spoke and filled her with peace.
I remember, just hearing the sounds of war constantly. And the Lord said to me, you're in a war, but I want you to transition from war to worship. And I began to worship God in the midst of that, because that's the only weapon that I had.
Miraculously, Dr. Plummer got a flight out of the country after just a few days. While she's thankful to be reunited with her husband, she feels heartache for those still in harm's way.
When I reached and touched down on American soil, I was relieved for the people who had been praying for me. I was relieved because I was out of harm's way, but yet I still had a heart for the people who were behind me, the Israelis, the country of Israel. That's my home. That's been my home 3.5 years. My heart went back out to them and to what they were going through. So I was torn.
Dr. Plummer and her husband, who serves as bishop for the Church of God in Christ in Israel, have been on a mission to bring Jewish people and Black Americans together. They recently hosted a group in Jerusalem to march down Martin Luther King Street as part of the city's tribute to the civil rights leader. As protests and debate over the war play out around the world, Bishop Plummer points out that America's support for the Jewish state, including among African Americans, is vital.
Our church, the Church of God in Christ, we have 6.5 million people alone. Virtually all of those that I'm aware of within the Church of God in Christ, millions are pro-Israel. Bless Israel. Don't curse Israel. A very, very minute number of loud voices, loud mouths will say some negative things. But let me say this. This is critically important for all the millions of Black Americans who are for Israel, who are praying for Israel, who choose to bless Israel. This is not a moment to be silent.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Charlene, thank you very much for that report. And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programming on CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, please tell us what you think about those stories that you've seen by mailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.